All right, we are ready for set 5 vocab words. So, like always, we're going to go through the words. I'm just going to introduce them, talk about what they mean. Some of them you may already know, some of them you may have never heard of. Maybe you've heard of the word and you don't know what it means. We're just going to go through these. There's 15 words. You can always come back to this video if you need to. You can use it to study or just to get acquainted with the words. And you guys know you've got Quizlet links in Canvas that are on this same page that you can use any of the flashcards, the test, the matching, the gravity, any of the games. Or maybe you made your own flashcards out of paper if you haven't done that, or you need cards. You can always do that. Index cards, you can make your own flashcards, or I have a quizzes link in here for you to use to study too, or any other way that you can think to study. You'll have 2 weeks from when we introduce these before we have to take the quiz. So you've got plenty of ways to study. All right, let's get into it. So the first one is avalanche, probably something you've heard of before, but an avalanche is a great mass of ice, earth, and snow mixed with rocks sliding down a mountain. An avalanche can also just mean a great amount of something, but we normally think of it as like a huge snow or ice or earth mass and lots of rocks that are kind of sliding down a hill. Kind of similar to a landslide, but this has the snow and the ice mixed in. A blizzard kind of goes right along with it, right? It's a heavy snowstorm, but the big thing about a blizzard is it's not a blizzard unless it has strong winds. So if we just get a bunch of snow, that is not a blizzard. It has to be strong winds. To use another vocabulary word, gale force winds, right? A gale is a strong wind. So a blizzard is a snowstorm with gale winds, big strong winds. A challenge, this one has lots of definitions. So it could mean an action. So like to invite somebody else to participate in a contest. So like to challenge somebody to a game or a contest. It could also mean to cause a person to use a lot of skill or effort. So if something is a challenge for you, then you're either going to have to use skill or effort. You're going to really have to try. Finally, it means like to question or argue something. So like you could challenge somebody if they tell you a fact or something, especially when it's unfair, unjust. So like if you feel like somebody is treating someone else unfairly, you could challenge a person to say, hey, you're not doing your job with this, or I don't think this is fair. It can also be used as a noun. So, like, I could give you a challenge, which is like a task or a problem that you would complete, or a call to take part in a contest. So, like, we're going to have a MobyMax challenge, right? That would be the noun form of that word. So, there's a lot of things actually that we can use with challenge. So, you may have known one of those, but maybe not one of the others. Conquer. We've talked about this with Native Americans and with explorers. To get the better of, to defeat. So it could be a person, something living that you could conquer, right? You could defeat another person when it comes to a challenge. Or it could be like we talked about with the Native Americans and the explorers, like conquering a set of land. So like saying like this is ours now. So you would defeat the people that were living there, especially the Vikings. The Vikings were conquerors, right? Also some of the Maya, the Aztec, the Inca, they were conquerors, right? It could also mean to like conquer a fear, to get the better of. So maybe there's something that you were nervous or scared about and you've gotten over it. You conquered, you defeated the fear. Crevice. So a crevice is just a deep, narrow opening in a rock, and it's caused by a split or a crack. So you could imagine that if you looked in the previous picture, like on a mountain or even like in the sidewalk, we've probably seen a crevice, right? Just a deep, narrow opening. Foolhardy, I like this word. I did not know this word until I started studying these, but foolhardy just means unwisely bold or daring. So not just unwise meaning, like not very intelligent, not very smart, but it's bold and daring. So like if you knew I really probably shouldn't ramp that curb with my bike, but you don't think about it, you just all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm going to do it, and it doesn't turn out well. So being not really thinking before you act and then doing something really bold or daring is foolhardy. Lure can mean a couple of things. So but it really all kind of has to do with tempting or attracting something or someone with the promise of something good. So like we can think about it, something that attracts. A lure is like an artificial bait, so you would lure the fish in. Sometimes we hear of like the villains luring the good guy, right? The antagonist might lure the protagonist into a trap to get them. So it's like attracting somebody with bait. Makeshift is almost like it's like a temporary, usually less strong replacement. So like maybe your chair breaks and you have to bring in a temporary chair. Maybe you would make something. The word make actually helps us a little bit there. But it's like a temporary replacement. It's normally not as good as the original one, but it's something to kind of get you by. An optimist, I think we've talked about this a few times. An optimist or a pessimist, if you think of like the glass half empty or glass half full, right? An optimist is going to be the person that always tries to look at things in a positive way. So they'd be like the glass half full person, always trying to look on the bright side, always trying to find the hope in a situation or being cheerful. Previous just means earlier, happening before. So like the previous vocabulary set that we did would have been set 4 because we're on set 5. So it's just something that happened earlier or before. A route, it's a path that must be followed to get to a place. So if you ever look up directions on your phone, that would be the route or the path that you would take. Last week we talked about, or in set 4, we talked about a course. It could be kind of similar to that, right? The path that you would take. A fixed course or area assigned to a salesperson or a delivery person. So like your mail person has a route. Your school bus driver has a route that they would follow. It's a path that they have to follow to get to someplace else. Summit. Summit would be like the highest part or the top. So if we were to think, the best example I have is like a mountain. The summit of a mountain would be the very top, the peak. A summit can also mean a conference or a meeting when top leaders of the government come together. So if there were, a big group of our top leaders, like when Congress or the Senate gets together, that could be like a summit, right? So some of the more important leaders in a group would come together. That could also be called a summit. Terse, I think this word is a good word for the meaning. So it's just short to the point. And I feel like the word terse is very short and to the point. So that might be a way that you can remember it. So if you had a terse conversation, it would mean they said, here's exactly what you need to know, and that's it. And they were done with the conversation. So just short and to the point. Thwart. I love this word. I don't know why I love this word, but it's a fun word. Thwart just means to block or defeat the plans or efforts of others. So I'm sure we've all seen that scene, right? Where maybe somebody is sword fighting, right? And the hero keeps blocking every attempt that the bad guy makes with his sword. That'd be like thwarting him. Or maybe they trick somebody into falling into the wrong trap, right? That would be like thwarting. So blocking, defeating the plans of the enemy or the other person. The last one is vertical. In set 4, we talked about horizon or horizontal. Vertical is just the opposite. So it's running straight up and down or upright. The horizon was like across, right? Vertical is up and down. It's the opposite. We've talked about, you'll talk about this with math too. So when you think of like the X and the Y axis, when you're plotting points, the Y axis is the one that is vertical, up and down. So you can go back and look at any of these, any of the video to remind yourself what any of these words mean, or use my examples. Other than that, you guys have a bunch of resources that you can use to study at this point. If you need some help, you can always ask me to, or send me a message. All right, do it.